Welcome, everybody, to the Geek to Geek Solo Beach Geekery Extravaganza! This week, Void is gone, and I am going to be your host on this wonderful geekery, probably mini-sode. It's actually been a couple of weeks since I was able to talk to you guys, and Void is unavailable this week because of real-life stuff going on the night of our recording. So I wanted to get on here. I wanted to talk to you about some stuff that I've been up to, and really just make sure that y'all know that you are loved, and that we are always going to be able to put out some content for you as we have for the last 5 seasons. Probably the number one thing that I've been doing over the last week is getting through Altered Carbon Season 2. It came out on Netflix recently, and I have been a fan of this show and these books for years. It was one of the first audiobooks that I've ever listened to was Altered Carbon. I think I saw it on John Scalzi's website sometime about it being a really good, hard-boiled, detective noir cyberpunk book. So I was all in on that one, and the audiobook narrator was great. It's still probably my number one listened to audiobook. I think it's Scott Brick that narrates it. The book is just fantastic. It's by Richard K. Morgan, and when I heard that they were doing a series on Netflix, I was so excited. Y'all know that I've loved this when I talked about it when it came out. Season 1 came out last year, and now Season 2 came out. So I knew it was coming out, and I wanted to rewatch Season 1 beforehand. Did not get that done. I got about halfway through it, and just life came up. But I couldn't not watch Season 2 when it came out. So I did that, and I basically binged most of it in a day, but then had to kind of catch up because real life happened, and I couldn't keep up just sitting in front of the TV. But I finally finished the whole series, and while I was leading up to this, I've actually been reading the second book in the series as well. Instead of listening to it on audiobook, I actually bought it on Kindle, and I have a real book, a real physical book, y'all, that I've been reading to alternate between. So it's not even like I was doing Whisper Sync or something. I've been doing a real physical book. Like a savage. I know, it's weird, right? But I'm reading the ebook at night as well. So I have 3 copies of this book, y'all. This is how much I love it. I have 3 copies of all of these books. So just so that you get an idea of how good they are if you haven't watched this show or listened to the audiobooks or read the books. And what I've realized is that I never finished the 3rd book. That the 3rd audiobook was not as good as the first 2. They swapped narrators, which wouldn't be so bad if they didn't actually mispronounce his name. I think I've talked about this on the show before, but the narrator in the 3rd audiobook actually mispronounces Takeshi Kovacs's name, the main character, as Takeshi Kovacs. And it drove me crazy. I couldn't do it. And so I realized that even reading the book, I never finished the 3rd novel. So I'm going to be going back to reading it next. That's the next book I'm reading. It's called Woken Furies. And the second one is called Broken Angels. So Season 2, I've realized because of how much I've gotten through Book 3, they are really taking a lot of the stuff from the second book and the 3rd book and merging them together. That it does not follow the same narrative as Book 2 or the same narrative as Book 3. It's really a totally new story, which is interesting given how closely the first season of this kept to major plot points. It was very, very, very different in terms of characterization, in terms of how things led up to one another, but the major plot points of Season 1 were pretty solidly following that first novel. They changed, the characters. Poe wasn't a character in the book, but he is in the series, things like that. Kelchrist didn't make stacks like she did in the first season, that kind of thing. But the second season is basically a completely new story. Like, they take these elements, like the Kempist revolt and revolution. They take the idea of well, I'm not going to do that. That's a spoiler. But they take a major plot point from the 3rd book and basically introduce it halfway into this series, and it becomes a very, very major point. And it has nothing to do with the story of the second book, which they're kind of working on making it that being the underlying narrative that's really close to it. The second book has to do with finding ancient artifacts in space, dealing with corporations, and the idea of military coups and wars that are fought for nothing, which is a major point in the TV show. But what they don't do in the series is actually have it set on the same planet. They don't have it being about the technology so much that you're finding from the ancient civilization. They're called elders in the show, but they're called Martians in the book because that's where they first found the technology that they're using on all this. So they really merge these together. They deal with a lot more of the psychological stuff from the third book, as well as the setting from the third book, but merge it with the base story of archaeology and technology, ancient technology, and what we can do with it from the second one. All that said is that it works really well. I think that it works great in season 2. I loved season 2. I'm very likely going to finish up season 1 and then watch season 2 again because it was that good. I think that when watching season 2 again, I'm going to be able to appreciate it a lot more because it's not that I was looking for similarities in the two of them, in the two different kinds of media, but I was trying to just place and parse what they were doing with the different stuff so I can sit down and watch it for what it is. And it is a totally new piece of media within this world, and I'm really excited about that. One of the other interesting things about season 2 is that because of the nature of Altered Carbon, because of the nature of this narrative, where people can swap bodies, basically, they have a cortical stack, as they call it, where their personalities are basically on hard drives that they can, or discs that they can put into other bodies they call sleeves. And so every season or every location, basically, because they're so far apart, the main characters can swap. Like, they can swap bodies. And so the main character, Takashi, in this season is played by Anthony Mackie, who is completely different than the I can't remember his name, who plays him in book 1. And is a completely different kind of actor, but he still nails that personality. And remember, Anthony Mackie is Falcon in the MCU, so he's a recognizable face, but by the end of this, even by the end of the first episode, I didn't see him as Falcon anymore. I saw him as Tak, so I was fully invested in this. Also, Kelchrist is played by Renee Elise Goldsberry, who is the original Angelica in the production of Hamilton. So if you've listened to the soundtrack of that, you'll hear that Angelica, you'll hear Kelchrist do that. I was lucky enough to see her in concert in Nashville a few, maybe last year, maybe it was year before last. It was year before last, I believe. And she is the best performer I've ever seen. She had mentioned it during the concert. She was like, yeah, and I have this show called, and it was at the Nashville Symphony. Let me say that. It was at the Nashville Symphony. So she was like, yeah, and I'm also in this show called Altered Carbon. We're going to be starting shooting again soon. And me and like two other people, maybe one, was like, woo! And she just kind of looked and cocked her head and was like, really? Like, nobody had, like, she didn't expect people at the symphony to know it, but it was really funny. I really, really enjoy, like, her. She has a much bigger part in season 2, which makes me very, very, very happy because A, I'm a Hamilton nut. B, she gave the best performance I've ever seen live of any kind, concert, just singing, just a musical performance, vocal performance, or just anything at all. Like, she was magnificent. So seeing her on this show, getting a bigger role and bringing Kel into it more, made both the fan me really happy, of the fan of the books as well as fan of hers. So I'm really, really recommend it if you're a Hamilton fan too, because you'll get a lot more Angelica in this, even though it's a 100% different kind of story and character. I did like that there was a mini Hamilton throwback during this as well. At one point in the early episodes, Tak is having, and maybe in the first episode, Tak is having a flashback on interacting with her, and she just looks at him and is like, I'm not here for you. And it made me laugh because that's what she says to Hamilton when she comes after the Reynolds pamphlet and all of that. She just tells him, she's like, I'm not here for you. She was there for Eliza. So whenever she tells the main character, I'm not here for you, it was like, yeah, I see what you did there. And so that made me, again, very, very happy. If you can't tell, y'all, I really, really liked Altered Carbon Season 2. Like, I am 100% recommending this to you because the production quality is great. Absolutely great. I'm really hoping they get a season 3 because they left it where this could be the end of the show if they needed to. And because, they mixed books 2 and 3. They got a lot of this narrative out of the way. They told the story that they really need to tell, but they left it open for a third season, which I get really excited about because they might be able to take the ideas that they didn't use from book 2 in terms of like finding ancient warships and things like that and actually seeing more of this elder technology that you see in the book that you don't see in this season, that they could do that in season 3. So I wonder if that's the route that they're going to take. I'm really hoping it gets renewed because when I looked on Netflix, they now do, at least on the PS4 app that I use, says, what number they are in terms of the ranking in the US, and Altered Carbon was number 4 last night. So it was like number 4 in America, and I was like, good, that's awesome that people are watching this a lot. So I'm really, really hoping they do a season 3 because it has to be a high budget show. I haven't looked up any numbers, but I'm certain it has to be high budget because it doesn't look cheap. That this is a sci-fi show. This looks like it would be a full-on like Hollywood cyberpunk show, like they would be in the movies. It looks like Blade Runner 2049 or something like that, where it is just excellent. So that's the main thing that I've done is really dive deep into Altered Carbon, get into the books, get into the show, and just become like fanboy out for really the last week or so. So I'm super recommending this one. While I've been watching that, the main thing I've done is actually play Dragon Quest of the Stars. Those of you who have listened to this before may know that I do another podcast called Dragon Quest FM, and it is about, if you didn't realize, the Dragon Quest series of RPGs. So a brand new game just got localized into English called Dragon Quest of the Stars, and it's a mobile game that it's been out for about 5 years in Japan, and it's really good. It is a mobile gacha game, so it is not for everybody, but it plays like a normal RPG in a lot of ways. There are leveling up different jobs and vocations. You have to have certain jobs at certain levels to unlock other kinds of specialized vocations. There's all sorts of equipment upgrades, but it also has a story that you actually get a full Dragon Quest story in this if you want that. I have a hard time following a story in a mobile game. I don't know what it is, but I find myself skipping through most of it. But you get multi-level dungeons, but you also have the autoplay that you tend to get in mobile games that you can really not focus fully on like you have to with a console game. The mobile combat, though, is really neat because it's all based on cooldowns. That if you've ever played the Final Fantasy VI mobile adaptation, the mobile port, where you have the ATB kind of scroll up from the bottom of the screen and it works like cooldowns on that one, your turn just works like a cooldown. That's kind of what this feels like. You're scrolling through abilities, and as you use an ability, it takes off cooldown time from something else or adds on cooldown time for another ability. So using your abilities in the right order so that you can combo them up and actually win the fight is really cool. You get multiplayer options, which you log in and you connect to other people doing the quest. You each get to control your individual character in battle, and it's really neat. I like this game a lot. It does have the same kind of annoying gacha upgrade system that games like Final Fantasy Brave Exvius and Record Keeper did. They're annoying where you get different stars. You have to upgrade items and evolve them using the same item. So it's good in the fact that you can get duplicates and actually upgrade them and evolve them using those, which is really cool. But for some items and weapons that are rarer, you don't get to upgrade or evolve them as far as you would want because they're rarer, and you probably aren't going to get a second one for it. So it's very annoying, and it makes that gotcha mechanic wear thin on a lot of people. I know Austin is wearing thin on him, my co-host on Dragon Quest FM, and I like mobile games a lot better than he does, though, so I can deal with it. I do not think I'm going to end up sticking with this game. I don't think over the long term I'm going to be playing it every day like I do the shard collectors, like Marvel Strike Force, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Those kinds of games tend to keep me more because they have different kinds of content that you can do, and this one is, no matter whether it's an event, whether it is the story, whether it's multiplayer, you're still running the exact same content. There's not so far any kind of restrictions or special challenges other than it just being harder. So we'll see how long this can keep my attention, but if you're looking for a mobile RPG that is free to play, which is really good. They do a really good job at the beginning of this on letting you really feel like you're getting a lot of free stuff, especially since it just launched. This is one to check out, that it feels like Dragon Quest IX, but modern. And Dragon Quest IX is my favorite of them. You customize your characters, you customize your party, and you get to do all of the jobs and vocations that you want. It's really, really good for a mobile RPG. This is not something I would necessarily play on the console. Actually, I know it's not something I would play on the console, but it's something interesting to have on my phone while I'm watching TV, like Altered Carbon, or something like Dr. Pimple Popper at night, when I can just go through, run a dungeon, get a badge for killing the Dragon Lord, things like that, where you go through different quests and beat like old bosses from the original games, that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting game. It's a good game, but it is also definitely a mobile gacha game, and your mileage will vary on that. So that's really the main thing that I've got going on this week. Those are the main things I've done. I want to give a shout out to Fuzzy Cow, to Capsule J, and to Rose, so that y'all all did fantastic races this weekend. It was the marathon, the Atlanta Marathon, and I'm sorry, Fuzzy, I can't remember exactly what your race was. I saw the medal, and I can't remember, but congratulations on doing your half, and congratulations to Jay and Rose on doing your marathons. I fell apart. I fell off of it and did not do the marathon or the half because of an upper respiratory infection that lasted about 4 or 5 weeks, and just being lazy before that and falling off of my training. I completely missed it. I was a little depressed that day, but I was rooting for you guys and wanted to give a shout out to all of y'all for doing such magnificently good work and finishing up your marathons and half marathons this weekend. So congratulations, y'all. That was fantastic. And so if y'all go, if anyone out there is listening and you want to congratulate at Rose262, at Fuzzy Cow, and at Capsule J for a job well done on doing marathons and half marathons this last weekend. So that's it for me this week, y'all. Hopefully we'll be back to normal recording next week with Void. He will hopefully have siding on his house then where they're not banging on the house right next to his microphone, where it is just, that's what it is. That's what it was going to be, like just constant pounding right next to the microphone, and that would have been impossible because y'all know how, y'all may not realize it, but used to, we had a Tuesday night motorcycle that would pause everything that while we were doing, because somebody would just rev their motorcycle beside the house, and it would just get everything. It would just catch it. So this is just the Tuesday night siding construction. So it'll be hammers and banging like that, and it just wasn't going to be good for recording. So you guys get this Beejstravaganza, and make sure that y'all support the podcast by going to patreon.com/geek2geekcast. If you want even more really cool content, we have geek2geekmedia.com, where all of our podcasts are listed. You can go listen to everything. There's a new podcast on the network, I Just Can't Stop Loving K-Pop, with Katie and Chelsea from Tea Time. If you're a K-pop fan, you are doing yourself a disservice by not listening to it, so go check that out. We have lots of content on there that is original to it. We have blogs and live streams and editorials, game reviews of all kinds, TV and movie and geeky toy reviews and discussions now. So we're trying to put out as much original content as we possibly can. So check that out at geek2geekmedia.com. And also make sure that you check out our Slack, Discord, and Reddit discussions. If you're a Redditor, it is reddit.com/r/geek2geekcast. And if you are a Slack or Discord user, it is either Slack or discord.geek2geekmedia.com for your invite. Also, if you would like to subscribe to our emails and get email updates when any of this is updated, you can check out geek2geekmedia.com/subscribe. So that was it for me this week, y'all. Check it all out, and y'all have a good week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.